I have a small collection of random fixes, or I don't know, improvements fixes. Uh, I guess I can start that one. I've had some customers ask about the consistency or lack thereof of refresh and refresh without cache. So now the dashboard and the workbook both offer both of these, and they have the consistent shortcut. So Command Enter just gets you refresh. Command without Shift Command Enter gets you without cache. So that's just the fast refresh. This is the slow one, and basically you can just see it takes a little longer. And on the workbook, exact same. They're here. It's called run over here and refresh over there. We could have that debate later, but yeah. So it's now consistent on both of them. And actually, ironically, we were lying on one of them, so now they actually are true. Um, uh, Fixed a couple issues around the color picker and nested popovers, which we don't love, but we're getting better about. So in this viz, thanks to Sarah for complaining / helping me understand what's going on. Before, whenever you click one of these colors, if you clicked one, it would like collapse the whole situation when you tried to get out of here. Now you can just go ahead and pick the next one and the next one, the next one, and you can get these drop one at a time. One change that is intentional, we'll see if people hate us for it or not, is that now if you have 3 layers of popovers to open, you need to click 3 times to close them. Each one takes a click to collapse. I think in general, it's kind of what you expect to happen. It feels better when you use it in context, but holler if you're like, oh God, why? Or like if you're using it and you notice that you hate it. And then SQL changes because it's the gift that keeps giving. Colin asked for us to make it so that SQL superpowers were off by default. We ended up with a slightly more nuanced version of that, which is that if you enter a tab with no existing fields or filters on it built via the UI, you will come in with superpowers off. So you can see I got this big superpowers off up here. If, however, I make a tab, sure, that's an awful thing. Here, and I hit edit SQL, you notice it's on. So if we go up here.
Okay, I was actually going to suggest this, so I love that you just.
This is what, yeah, and that's what came out of your ticket. It was like that nuance is important because your mind just breaks if you try to like understand it. There is a caveat in here, so if I, this is an awful query, I apologize. Go in here and pivot on this guy. I actually am not allowed now to drop into SQL Super or drop out of SQL Superpowers because I have pivots and totals, or in this case, pivots. I can click this button to remove it. Eventually, what I want to make it is like that we don't bother showing this till you try to get out. But this was cheap and easy. Basically, this lets you get out when, or lets you know why it's terrible to drop out of here. If I do this, now I can go ahead and turn off SQL Superpowers and things are much more sane. So yeah, that's sort of a revision to keep people from getting the experience of I don't know what you call it, like unparsed SQL with pivots and totals is pretty awful today, so that just prevents it. Maybe someday we want to fix those and then we can bring it back, but that's just the gate we're doing. Finally, if right now I can use this to drop out of SQL mode, unless I get myself into an unparsed state like this. Now, actually, if I click this, it will actually pop up and say, just understand your query, discard SQL, and offer you to let you discard SQL here. Just a way to like, basically before I gave you a hint to go look over here, but it was sort of awful. This just gives you a button you can hammer and get out on. Yeah, so Jared and I were very leery of tossing your SQL without making you click a button that said discard my SQL. So we want to do that, but do that and get out. So hopefully we'll get some positive feedback on that and keep going.
Yeah, super clean.
So, yeah.
Wait, why do we have to drop pivots? It's not clear at all.
Somebody smarter than me can explain that. I don't like Colin.
Can you say it again? I missed the question because I was pretty.
Why do they have to drop pivots if they want to go into unparsed SQL?
Oh, effectively, they're not really very usable anyway. Like we attach a lot of metadata to them, and they're really hard to actually work with or see. And we essentially unpivot them anyway. So it just, I think, gives the user a simpler thing to work with in a context where they don't get all the magical stuff that we have. So it just makes sense to denormalize it, is sort of the short answer.
The data table also falls apart in really epic ways when you try
Yeah,
and
that's,
run like
it's just that like there's magic in the way that we're handling pivots that we don't handle when it's in raw SQL mode. And so like they just essentially don't work. It's the same with totals. Like they
Yeah.
just kind of don't work properly unless you are using the actual application like intelligence. And so there's just no reason to keep them around because you can't do anything with them anyway.
And I think the good thing is like we've made that visible now, so if people really hate that, we can always go invest in making it actually work right. But I think it's better to just not do it wrong than to do it sort of 50%.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll follow up outside of the
Yeah,
recorded session.
yeah. It's definitely something we could like refine further. I think it was basically just a mitigation for a lot of complaints from customers.
Yep. Yeah, I think maybe the subtle thing that you're getting at, we do want people to be able to work with the result of a SQL query and do stuff with it. So resort it, add calcs to it, potentially pivot it. And we probably want to lift those things into the UI, but they're not going to work the same way as they would in the database. They're essentially going to work on top of that data table. And so we need to figure out how to communicate that and make it work.